Hello, everyone, and welcome to Eat to Treat. I'm Amaris Williams. I'm a PhD in nutrition, and I'm an avid foodie and a cook. And I'm coming to you every Saturday or every first and third Saturday with diabetes friendly and hypertension friendly recipes. The first Saturdays are diabetes friendly recipes, and the third Saturday are hypertension friendly recipes. So today is a diabetes friendly recipe. We are making um I'm blanking on what we're making, but we're making Brussels sprouts with a maple Za'atar seasoning, and we're gonna spice that up with some paneer to give us a little bit of protein with this, and make it a full meal. This recipe was inspired by my recent trip to Boston, where I had maple Za'atar Brussels sprouts, and they were really good. So this is my recreation of that recipe at a restaurant in Boston. So let's get started. Okay, so the first step is for everyone to turn their oven on to 425. I've already turned my oven on, so I'm not gonna go walk away and do that now. But while you're doing that, I'm gonna talk a little bit about these Brussels sprouts. I've got fairly decent sized Brussels sprouts here, but I'm only gonna cut mine in half. If you have bigger Brussels sprouts than this, you definitely want to cut yours in quarters because they will take a longer time to cook the larger they are. And you don't want to be waiting around forever on this recipe. You want it to be ready so you can eat it because it's delicious. All right, so the first thing is after the oven is on at 425, we want to cut the brown stem part of the Brussels sprouts off and then cut them in half. So basically just cut the brown part off. That one didn't have much of a brown part. And then cut it in half so that the layers stay together, which means cut it the longer way. So that it like because they're oval, so you want to cut along the longer axis of the oval. So that's what we're gonna do for all of our Brussels sprouts. And Brussels sprouts in this recipe, they are low in calories and high in fiber. So this recipe per serving is only about 350 calories. So you'll have more calories left over after eating this. You'll still be full because of the fiber and the protein, but after you eat this, you'll have a little bit of caloric capacity, I guess, left over, where you can have some fruit for dessert, or you could even pair this with a whole grain like brown rice or a whole grain couscous. Hello, how are you, everybody? I'm seeing the chat is starting to wake up. That's great. About halfway through with these Brussels sprouts. And then after we finish cutting the Brussels sprouts, what we'll do is we'll toss them in olive oil and salt and then put them in the 425-degree oven that we've already turned on. So, so if your oven is not on, go ahead and turn your oven on. I know that someone, if you joined late, you may not have heard me say turn the oven on. All right. Almost got this going good here. And the sheet pan I'm using, I know on the website I said that you need a sheet pan, but anything that you can put in the oven and put Brussels sprouts in will work. What I'm using is a $5 pizza dish, deep dish pizza dish that I found at Aldi. So anything you got that you can put in the oven and will hold some Brussels sprouts, you can use. Now, if you're using a dark dish, like something with a dark coating, this has a light champagne kind of coating. But if you're using a dark coated dish, your Brussels sprouts are going to brown faster on the bottom than if you're not using a darker dish, which could be a good thing. I like kind of burnt, crispy Brussels sprouts, and I know a lot of people like to eat them that way. So using a dark dish in this case might be beneficial. All right, last one. Okay. And that's really, oh, well, we're gonna cut the paneer up. But there's no chopping of onions or garlic in this recipe. I really like that because one, onions make me cry, and two, garlic is sticky and my fingers smell like garlic for like a week after I cut it. So no onion and garlic chopping is a good idea. So what we're gonna do is drizzle some olive oil over our Brussels and sprinkle in some salt. I'm using a coarse kosher salt here, and that's just so that I can feel how much salt that I'm using. If you're using a thinner salt, it's easier to over salt your food. Okay, and I'm just gonna toss the Brussels sprouts in the oil and the salt and just swirl them around. Made a mess. Okay, and you can arrange them so that they're all cut side down. When I tested this recipe, it doesn't really matter. A lot of recipes online, they recommend that you put them all cut side down, but I was lazy the first time I made this and just threw them in the oven and they came out just fine. So all right, so I'm going to put these in the oven just like this, and then we'll make the paneer. It's okay if your oven is not fully preheated yet. I turned my oven on a couple minutes before I started streaming, and mine is not preheated. So yes, Brussels sprouts were on sale at Kroger this week. They were only $2.99 a pound. So definitely worth buying. All right, next step is to cut the cheese. So this is the paneer that I bought. You can also make paneer fairly easily, but it's kind of time consuming. So I just bought it. It's not that much more expensive because you're making it with milk, which isn't really cheap. And then you have to add lemon juice and wait. And so the time cost of making your own paneer is kind of high. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but my oven is going off. It's preheated now. If yours should be close to preheated as well. All right. And for reference, we're at 425. And yes, you can use tofu instead of paneer. You can use firm tofu. And the paneer, I bought the paneer in at Kroger. Giant Eagle also has it. And it's just in the specialty cheese section. I had to ask someone and they pointed it out to me because it was like one little thing in this whole smorgasbord of cheese. It was just overwhelming how much cheese is there. So as you can see, I've cut the paneer block in half lengthwise, and I'm going to cut long, skinny blocks out of that so that I'll have a flat block with two large sides. And what we're going to do is we're going to fry the first large side, then flip it over and fry the second large side. And that'll give us a decent amount of crispy surface area on the cheese. So let's get to it on this. Um, and the benefit of using paneer is it's not gonna melt while you're cooking it. So you would think if you're frying cheese, you don't have to batter it like a mozzarella stick, because mozzarella would definitely melt if you tried to cook it the same way you cook paneer. But this will hold together, hold its shape, and and it won't, just disintegrate on you in your pan. But one thing that paneer does is it will stick to the bottom of your pan. And when we get to that step, I'll show you how to stop that from happening. The trick is you have to put a decent amount of oil in the bottom of the pan. So this is not a cooking oil spray type of job. You need a decent amount of oil, at least 2 millimeters of oil in the bottom of your pan so that it doesn't stick. Okay, so my paneer is cut up. Hopefully yours is as well. I've been talking a lot, so I cut it kind of slowly. So what I'm going to do is adjust the camera angle so you can see the pans better. And then I'll turn on my pan to medium heat. So this is a 5 out of 10. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil in there. Almost enough to cover the bottom of the pan. And then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of ghee. And that'll give us a decent amount of oil in the pan to cook the paneer. And the ghee, which is clarified butter, which just basically means you take butter, you cook it until the protein rises to the top, you scrape that off, and then you keep cooking it until the water evaporates. So all you're left with is milk fat. So butter, ghee is clarified butter, which is just pure milk fat, pretty much. And that has so much flavor. So if you think of the flavor of butter, it's super concentrated in ghee. And I've added a little bit of olive oil to the ghee to try and make it slightly healthier, because as you can imagine, concentrated butter is not the healthiest fat you can use. But as you can see, I've got a decent amount of fat in my pan. It's swirling around. The bottom is completely covered. And if you have one of those spiral electric burners where your pan is not flat and it's kind of tilted to one side and all your oil pools on one side, then you may have to add more oil. So, and then the size of your pan will determine how much oil you have. I do keep my ghee at room temperature. I don't use a lot of ghee, so I probably should keep it in the refrigerator, because I've found that as it stays at room temperature for a long period of time, it starts to crystallize a little bit. And I think it probably wouldn't do that if I kept it in the fridge. All right, so let's test this and see how hot our oil is. And the trick to when you put yeah, it's hot. All right, so it's sizzling. The trick to when you put the paneer in is you put it in there and then move it a little bit. So don't just put it in there and let it sit where it lands. Move it a little bit so that it doesn't stick to the pan. And probably could be a little bit hotter, but I'm not going to turn it up because that'll make it too hot. But my paneer is sizzling and it's not sticking too much. Except for that one piece. All right, so my oil is starting to pop, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit. So now I'm at a 4 out of 10. And we'll see if that helps. Uh-oh. Almost full. Okay. So, I'm just gonna let this cook a little. It's still popping a little bit. I didn't have enough space for all the paneer in my pan, which is fine. I can cook it in a separate batch later, or put it back in the fridge to enjoy at a separate time. What we're gonna do next is make the Za'atar seasoning. So you could have bought your own Za'atar seasoning, and this is what Kroger sells. And if you live in Atlanta and you go to the DeKalb County Farmers Market, you can buy it bulk like this. I'm going to turn my oil down to 3.5 out of 10. Okay? But I'm going to show you how to quickly make it out of a bunch of dried herbs and sesame seeds. Now, sumac is kind of hard to find. This I ordered online. I forgot where. It's been a while. But you can go to the store and get lemon peel already zested and dried that you can use in here. Or you can zest a lemon with a microplane. Either way you want to do it. Sumac is it's native to a lot of different places. Like, it grows wild in upstate New York, and it has a lemony flavor. You can make sumac-ade, and it kind of tastes like lemonade. Yes, I can adjust the camera to see the whole pan. You might see some of my setup, but yeah, so you can see how much paneer I've got in there. All right. I want to show you how the sausage is made. Okay. So, back to the Za'atar seasoning. We're going to use 1 tablespoon of sesame seeds, and my tablespoon has, actually, you know what? This is half a tablespoon, so I'm just going to use 2 of these because my tablespoon has ghee in it. So 1 tablespoon of sesame seeds, 1 tablespoon of sumac, or the zest of 2 lemons, but I'm using sumac, and half a tablespoon of thyme, dried thyme. So that's what this is. And half a tablespoon of marjoram. And half a tablespoon of oregano. I love the smell of oregano. All right. And there's about a pinch of salt in there. Most Za'atar seasonings that you buy will have salt in it. This one from Kroger has salt. If you look at the ingredients, salt is the last ingredient, so it doesn't have that much salt in it. This one doesn't have the ingredients listed, so I'm not sure if it has salt in it or not. But basically, this is it. We're just gonna stir up the seasonings, And this is our Za'atar seasoning, and this has northern African origins. It's also used in the Middle East, and it's really delicious. Just, I mean, if you're making this at home, just smell it. It smells amazing. All right. Next step is to flip the paneer. It should be, wow, okay. Turn it down to 3. This paneer has more water in it than the paneer I've bought in the past. All right, you can see how it's browned on the bottom, and that's our crispiness. So I'm just gonna flip these over. Some of them aren't quite there yet, and they're sticking together because I put them too close together in my pan. Okay. Yeah, those are good. Those are nice and brown. All right. So as you can see, it's kind of time consuming to flip this cheese over. That's why we're only going to do 2 sides instead of trying to do cubes and do all 6 sides. It's just too much. And it takes too long to cook, so. Very careful with this hot oil while you're flipping. Okay, I've got all my pieces flipped. No, except for this one. Okay. And I'm just gonna move them around so that they don't stick, but they shouldn't now that they're good and hot. All right. So let me just wipe up some of this splattered oil. All right. So the next step is to mix the maple syrup and the lemon juice with the za'atar. So once the paneer is done and the Brussels sprouts are done, we're ready to toss everything together. And we're using 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. Now this is a source of carbohydrates. I calculated the carbohydrates in this recipe, and we've got about 19 grams of carbohydrates, which is a decent amount, but it's not super high. And we're not going to use all the za'atar. So 1 tablespoon of maple syrup, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. And what makes it okay that it has 19 grams of carbohydrates in it is that we've got about 4.5 grams of fiber, and that's going to slow the absorption of the carbohydrates, make you feel full longer, and just generally be good for you. Fiber is associated with lower blood pressure. So if you have diabetes and high blood pressure, the fiber is really going to help you in multiple ways. This is a lemon. So when I juice a lemon, sometimes I use a fork. Sometimes I use a reamer. Today I'm going to use a fork because it's, everyone has a fork, at least one fork. You should anyway. And first I roll the lemon under the heel of my hand, and that just loosens up the juices and gets them ready to go. My grandmother, she, when she juices lemons, she likes to leave them out of the refrigerator for some time, because she says you get more juice from a room temperature lemon than a cold lemon. I've not tested that, but you know, as a scientist, I always want to do an experiment to see if that's actually true. But it makes sense to me. So, and grandmas, they know things, so you don't really need to test what grandma says. All right. So cut the lemon in half. Stick your fork in the middle of it. Pick out some seeds. Put them in your trash bowl. Okay. And then if you stick your fork in the middle of it, it'll help with directing the juice into the bowl so that it doesn't spray everywhere. And you can use the fork to twist it in the middle, and that will help get more juice out. So I'm twisting the fork in the lemon, just really going at it. Yes, grandmas are always right. Definitely can't argue with them, that's for sure. All right, so that's half the juice of the lemon. And this is a really large lemon, so I'm probably going to get a ridiculous amount of juice out of it. I think the paneer is almost done. Don't let your paneer burn. I've not tasted burned paneer, so I don't know if it's any good. All right. Second half of the lemon. And there's not that much spraying of lemon juice everywhere, so. And I've got some seeds in my maple syrup mixture now. So what I'm going to do is use my fork to get them out. If I had a reamer and not a fork, I wouldn't be able to do that. All right. Okay. All right. And then to this, I'm going to add maybe about half the za'atar that we made. Which, let's measure that. Let's see how much that is. And you're going to have to eyeball this just based on how much lemon juice you have. So that was 3 half tablespoon measures. So 1.5 tablespoons of za'atar is now mixed in with my lemon juice and maple syrup. We'll see what this looks like when we put it on the Brussels. I'm gonna turn off my paneer and put it on this on paper towels to drain. So that's what the other side looks like. It's browned on both sides and should be nice and crispy and delicious. And it's kind of browned on the sides that we didn't cook as well because those were in contact with the hot oil. So this one didn't get too charred. Still needs more cooking. Okay, yeah, this one is nice and crispy on all sides. So the ones that were in the middle of the pan really got the most cooking. I think for these ones that are kind of a little anemic, I'm going to turn the pot back on for those and and cook them a little bit longer. We're essentially done with the recipe. Let me check my Brussels sprouts and I'll be right back. Okay, I don't know if you can hear that, but the Brussels are nicely browned. Um, and they're ready to go. So now this marinade, this sauce that we've made with the lemon and the maple and the za'atar, it's a liquid, so it's gonna make the crispy outer leaves of the Brussels sprouts less crispy if we leave it on there too long. So this is something you want to throw on the Brussels sprouts, put the paneer in there with it, and then eat it. So let's do that. That sounds like a good idea. Oh, and I never turned my cheese back on. Oops. Let's take this piece out. Let's pretend that all these are browned and that my pot heats evenly. It does not heat evenly. All right. So let's use this plate. Put some Brussels on it. I'm not going to put all the sauce on all the Brussels because, like I said, it's gonna make them wilt. But you can see how even on the light colored pan, the cut side that I had put down against the pan still browned. Let's see if it'll refocus on that. No, maybe not. Okay. But we've got crispy leaves. We got crispy Brussels. This is going to be spectacular. And this recipe makes 4 servings. So that's about a serving of Brussels sprouts. And I'm going to drizzle some of this Za'atar on top of them. All right, and let's get some fried paneer. And the fried paneer also goes well with this maple sauce. And so this is what we've got. Brussels with za'atar, lemon, and maple with fried paneer. All in about 30 minutes. So now let's see how it tastes. I know how it tastes. Tastes delicious. Yeah. This is very similar to what I had at the restaurant in Boston. This has a little bit more lemon in it. Probably because that lemon that I bought at Kroger was huge. But yep. So let's all eat. And so I'll be quick and do a little outro. Today we made diabetes friendly Brussels sprouts with maple and za'atar seasoning and with paneer, fried paneer. And let's eat it. So hit subscribe and the bell icon to be notified of the next demonstration. And I'll see you next time. All right. Bye.